Welcome back to Breslov campus. Regarding the power, the unbelievable greatness and power of eating on Shabbat. Rebbe Nachman says that eating on Shabbat is something very, very precious, very special, and in fact, it possibly could be the climactic event of the entire year is the Shabbat meals. Can you believe that? The highest spitz of the entire week, the entire year, the entire month and year is eating on Shabbat. He says it's all holy, it's all godly, and the food of Shabbat does something else totally and goes to a totally different place. Not just the physical aspect of the food, but the spiritual influence that it has on a person is unbelievable and far-reaching. He says, in short, that there are pathways revealed by true tzaddikim. Every generation has true tzaddikim who, based on what they see is lacking in the generation, they dig into the Torah to bring out and uncover hidden advice, hidden teachings, making them more noticeable and emphasis on them so that people will begin to connect to them more, because the tzaddikim see that here is to be found the advice to be saved from any modern day difficulties and obstacles in life. So they're able to pick out through the Torah, through the 613 mitzvot, to find what's hidden in the Torah that can help this generation the most. So for the tzaddikim to do this, it can be compared to a jungle where there's tons of grass and reeds and trees growing, and the tzaddikim, they want to make a path in this specific area. So they start cutting down the trees, cleaning off the grass, making a well-trodden path so that people can walk upon that path. What happens though is that there's one very negative trait called conflict, and this conflict at many levels, whether it's conflict from wicked people, but also conflict from tzaddikim, not knowing how to take it properly, all this type of conflict comes to cover up the pathways revealed from the tzaddikim. This is because when there's conflict, so people say, I have nothing else to do here anymore. I have no interest in this area, and they go look elsewhere. Instead of staying in Torah and Judaism, they take the conflict as a sign. I must. This is not my address. I must find somewhere else to go, and as a result, they don't pursue the pathways revealed by the tzaddikim, and the pathways of the tzaddikim become less and less used. And what happens when a pathway, a well-trodden pathway, is not used anymore? So all types of grasses and weeds start growing again, all types of branches and trees, etc., and it becomes covered up again. Even though the tzaddikim worked very hard to reveal these pathways, but because of the conflict that's in the world, it gets covered up. People are not using these pathways. And even people who discover these tzaddikim and try to come closer to them, still by them these pathways are clogged up because of the conflict, not allowing them to have a clear perspective in life and in the Torah. What can be done to fix this? This is what Rebbe Nachman teaches. Eating on Shabbos. Eating on Shabbat is so powerful that it opens up these tiny, the covered up pathways of the tzaddikim and re-reveals them. By eating with this intent that I should have revealed to me through the eating of Shabbat, the pathways of the tzaddikim, this actually happens to a person. That from eating on Shabbat, Hashem opens up the doors. Why is this? Rav Nosson goes into this. It's a bit deep, but in short, it's that there's what's called strife of holiness. Strife of holiness is, for example, the different opinions found in the Gemara and the Mishnah, Beit Shammai, Beit Hillel, that this strife of holiness is the root of all other strife in the world. Now, clarifying strife is trying to sift out the truth from the falsehood. Okay? If you have two rabbis, one Beit Shammai says like this, Beit Hillel says like this, halacha follows Beit Hillel. That's a clarification. Eating, when a person eats, the body also separates what's not needed and what is needed. Okay? This happens whenever a person eats. On Shabbat, it goes up a higher dimension, and that besides the physical separation of the food being absorbed on Shabbat, it's also in the person's neshama also doing this separation of what's not needed and what yes is needed, so that the clarification afforded by the spiritual energy in the food of Shabbat helps a person to see past the conflict, the strife that he can't understand properly, the strife he sees, which emanates from the strife found in the Torah, and he finds clarity in it. Once he finds the clarity, he begins to reappreciate, rediscover these pathways that have been covered up by the tzaddikim, and to now make use of them and make an emphasis on them, and by practicing them and following them. This allows the covered up pathways of the tzaddikim to become re-revealed into the world. All this through the eating of Shabbat. This is in a nutshell.